Thank you for tuning in. In this video, I want to share some thoughts about well-being and ethics in regards to how humans interact with dogs. Now, for some, this can be a little bit of a touchy subject, including me, to be frank, because we form such strong emotional bonds with dogs that we can become really worried, concerned, sad, distressed, or even frustrated and angry when we witness something that we believe is threatening the well-being of the dog involved. So in that regard, maybe this video can add some perspective. In an earlier video that I posted about assessing dog welfare, I explained that this is a subjective process and that the reliability of the assessment will strongly depend on the knowledge and the experience that the assessor has. And it's not always easy because a dog may seem to look fine on the outside and may even behave normally and healthy, but there can still be dysregulation and damage going on inside of the dog. So that makes it complicated. And unfortunately, assessing the well-being of a dog is subjective. So it will always remain subjective. Now, a good question to ask is, when is well-being being threatened? When is welfare threatened? Can you define this? I think you can, using 3 points. 1, when the dog is not able to cope. 2, when the dog is experiencing negative emotions. And 3, and that is what it all boils down to, when the first 2 points cause damage and cause dysregulation. And that means that there's impairment in the regulation of, metabolism or physiological systems within the body, or psychological dysregulation can also occur. So that damage can occur when the dog is not able to cope and when the dog is experiencing negative emotions. And it can be and or. So even if a dog seems to recover quite quickly, shakes it off, moves on, damage can still have occurred. In example, if the dog has experienced a short bout of acute fear, so the dog was frightened really intensely, but the dog did recover, still there can be damage in the emotional regulation. And an example could be that the dog could develop an anxiety disorder, where there is damage within the brain and the dog is no longer able to evaluate and assess incoming information in a healthy way. And the brain keeps saying things like, you're in danger, you're in danger. And that elevates stress and arousal and hypervigilance, and that can really make the dog suffer. And only one, traumatic experience, that's what trauma is basically. It's well-being being threatened and damage within the regulation of emotions, of stress, of all kinds of systems. If a little bit of damage occurs, then that can roll out a whole cascade of negative outcomes. So if a dog is not able to cope, in example, if somebody is applying flooding, in example, where the dog is just not able to move away and is constantly stressed, and these stress levels get really high and there's no recovery at all, then the stress regulation can also become damaged. And that can cause things like an impaired immune system. So the dog will be more vulnerable to disease or infections, and there can be dysbiosis of the gut microbiome, causing stomach problems and problems within the bowels and infections there. And this can also impact emotions and mood. So those 2 points, those 2 first points, the dog's not able to cope or the dog is experiencing negative emotions, those can both potentially threaten a dog's welfare. And I'm saying potentially because it will strongly depend on the dog, on the situation, and on many other factors, whether something is truly, causing damage. It depends. And one thing that it depends on is the amount of resilience that a dog has. But I do not like the argument that I hear sometimes where people say, well, the dog just has to build up some resilience, so that's why I am giving the dog these challenging experiences. I don't like that argument because you're taking a risk. Because most of the time you're talking about experiences where the dog is experiencing negative emotions. And you don't want to activate those because you're risking threatening the well-being of the dog. So if you want a dog to build up resilience in a safer way, then I'd say play with the dog. During play, when the dog is having fun, so it's a positive emotional state, the dog should be feeling safe and having social interactions. And during play, the dog really builds up resilience. There may always be a slight discomfort, a slight startle during play, but it's only mild, and it's only a mild challenge, and the dog is given time and space to recover. Otherwise, it's not play. It's only play when there's a lot of space to move away and to recover and to have these pauses and breaks. But if you want to build up resilience, want to help a dog build up resilience, play with the dog, or let the dog play with other dogs, because they're even better at most, if they're healthy, well-regulated dogs. I'll have to add that, because in the West here, we have so much human intervention in these captive companion dogs that a lot of dogs are dysregulated and are already a little bit damaged. So, building up resilience is not done by placing the dog in a situation where it's experiencing negative emotions. Please don't do that. You're taking a risk. Use play. Safe play. And that brings me to the next point. So a lot of it will depend on the dog, the resilience, the situation, whether something, a tool, a method is truly damaging the well-being of the dog. It will depend. And that makes it hard to set up clear ethical guidelines. And when we're talking about ethics, we're talking about moral principles and values that you have in regards to how you feel dogs should be treated. And ethics can be different between cultures, countries, religions, and professions, and also personal. We each have our personal ethics. And that makes it hard because we humans, we're social mammals. We like to be in groups and we like to all feel the same about something. We like to form groups and we like to hate on those who are not like us because that's what social mammals do. But it can be really frustrating if you feel that others need to follow your ethics. So in regards to formulating ethics, I'd advise to take care of what you're saying and use language that is true and honest. So say things like, I don't want to do things that could potentially threaten the dog's well-being, instead of making these really bold statements like fear-free, pain-free, stress-free, because they are a little bit too bold, in my opinion, because, stress-free, I don't even think that's possible to live that way. And I also think that if you never, ever, ever experience fear, I don't think it's possible, but if you never experience fear, you're not going to build up resilience. So you need these little startle responses. So that's a little bit too far out. I think the intention is really good. Fear-free, force-free, great intention. But it may not be 100% honest if you look at life situations. There can always be a moment where force is needed to, in example, save the dog quickly from being hit by a car. You'll use force, most likely. or if the dog is injured and you really need to take it to a vet ASAP, there may be fear involved and force. But you will still have the best interest at heart and want to improve the well-being of the dog. So I don't like to use those bold statements. Be careful with your words. And maybe also not emphasize the negatives like fear, pain, stress. Maybe you can emphasize what you like and what you want to foster. Like, I like it if a dog feels safe, and if a dog can be relaxed, and if a dog can build up trust. And I like to help a dog build up positive associations with the environment. And feeling safe is really important. So that could be a nice ethical guideline, that you want to have everybody that you work with feel safe. And for me, I always say I work welfare-based. So the well-being is my first priority. So I would never want to do anything that could potentially threaten a dog's well-being. And when we're talking about ethics, we're also talking about the amount of risk that you are willing to take, because it's about risks. It's not about abusing or not abusing. It's about taking risks with the well-being of another, of a dog. And how much risk are you willing to take? And personally, I'm like a snowflake. I don't like to take any risks. I really like to feel safe. And that's what I like for others that I work with as well. So maybe this could have you start thinking about things. Another thing that I'd like to share is that if I witness a human responding aggressively towards a dog, I try to approach this the same way. This is going to sound strange, but the same way if it were a dog. So if a dog is responding aggressively towards others, the first thing that goes through my mind is, how is that dog feeling right now? What emotion is involved? And what does the dog need? What need is it trying to get met through the aggression? And, that makes me curious to find out more about this dog and history, etc. And I do the same with humans. So if I see humans responding aggressively towards others, I'll be thinking about, how is that human feeling and what is it needing? That's could also be interesting, and it could also help you to be more compassionate and show empathy. Because if you can do this towards dogs, then do this towards humans as well, because we're both social mammals. And there are more similarities than you think. So that could be interesting. And I'd also like to say, I think that's really important. If you want to advocate for dog welfare and you want to improve dog welfare and stand up for their, what you believe to be their rights, then think about, if you're investing energy into something, think about how that is making you feel personally. Because if you are investing energy into something that is making you feel really frustrated, angry, sad, or powerless, if you're having those feelings, then maybe you need to reconsider what you are investing your energy in. Because I always say, the best thing that you can do for others is take good care of yourself. And for us, for humans, the same thing applies when it comes to welfare being threatened or compromised. If you're not able to cope, or if you're experiencing negative emotions, there's a risk that your well-being is under threat. So if you're investing energy into something that is making you feel and experience negative emotions, be careful. Take care of yourself. And that's one of the reasons that I personally have decided to invest my energy into educating those who want to be educated, and talking to those who want to listen, who are interested, who are curious. And I think that's a good way to end this video, because if you've watched this video till the end, that means you're curious, you're interested. So thank you so much, because that motivates me to make more videos. If you want to motivate me even more, then like, subscribe, comment, all good for the algorithm. And I hope to see you in the next video. Take care.